Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me for my overview of the latest printing of Absolute All-Star Superman from DC Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, what we have here is the latest printing of Absolute All-Star Superman. And this is the one that came out this past July of 2024. This is the third printing of this book, and I do have the original printing over here on the left-hand side. So we will be doing a comparison, but I mean, so far it looks identical. The book, as it always has, comes shrink-wrapped in plastic, and it does have a little leaflet, and you all know how I love keeping these things. So here we have the new printing and then the original printing. Let's look at the spine of the actual slipcase. So you have Absolute All-Star Superman, Absolute All-Star Superman. However, it's yellow now instead of just white. And then the back of the slipcase itself with this beautiful piece, of course, by Frank Quitely. And just to quickly do a little comparison on it, maybe the colors are just a little bit lighter in the new printing as opposed to the original printing. Now, we're going to take a look at the actual book spine right here, and also in white and in yellow. Morrison, Quitely, Grant, the DC logo, and of course the DC Comics logo of the time. Who knows when the next printing will come out in a few years? It'll have the DC Bullet logo that they're changing to. One of the things I immediately noticed, just like I'm sure you did, is just how easy it is to read Superman out there instead of up here. And I promise this isn't a test, to see if you're colorblind or not. But that was just, there we go. So you can see that it does say Superman. But they are making it bold and yellow this time around. I kind of like this, though. That was cool. Like, it's not there, it's subtle, and oh, that's really cool. Again, the spine of the book, which we've looked at, but let's go ahead and look at the back with this iconic kiss on the moon from one of my favorite issues, and of course, I have a lot of favorite issues in here. What's really interesting is I haven't had a chance to talk about this book. We did a book club on our Patreon, and then Melanie did the retro view of this Absolute Edition without us knowing that it was coming back to print. And now I finally get to talk a little bit about it myself. But yes, this is an iconic image from I think this is the third issue with Lois Lane and Superman right there. And this is one of those rare instances. What the heck is that instance? Uncanny Omar talk pretty one day. Where we do have a dust jacket. And just to show you what the dust jacket has, the measure of a man lies not in what he says, but what he does. And then just a little blurb about All-Star Superman, and then underneath the dust jacket here, I do believe that, yeah, that is the same, including the font. And the same picture, just a little bit darker. I do love that, just the simplicity of it, and I'm glad that they kept it outside of the DC logo, which had to change. Chip Kidd did such an amazing job putting this package together. I love the zoomed in image here from a panel from inside the book. So we will be doing a comparison, internal comparison to the first printing in a little bit, but I want to go ahead and open this up and talk about the stories found in here and checking out this artwork together. Okay. Let's go ahead and get this Absolute opened. Again, these end sheets beautifully designed by Chip Kidd. And the title page right here, which doesn't say Absolute All-Star Superman. And this zoomed in Frank Quitely piece. Absolute All-Star Superman, written by Grant Morrison, penciled by Frank Quitely, and digitally inked and colored by Jamie Grant, bringing everything together, and lettering by Phil Balsman and Travis Lanham. And there is an introduction here by Chip Kidd, and of course Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Over on the left-hand side, you have the dedication from Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, and then some little pictures, much like what you saw here, of some scenes from the book. I will suggest, if you've never read this, first of all, go and read it and then come back. This is a masterpiece for a reason. A lot of people love this. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I was not a fan of Frank Quitely before this book. This and We Three are the ones that made me think, wow, this guy's a really good artist. But I'll talk more about that here in a second. But yeah, this is another phenomenal story if you haven't read it. The reason I said it now, and I am going to be talking about some minor spoilers going in, just in case, is that Chip Kidd does an amazing introduction. Talking about even coming up with these, just borrowing from Grant Morrison's terms about some of the things that are going on in the sci-fi elements that are thrown in here. And it is really cool to see an introduction like this about somebody that understands the character and somebody that not just a book designer, but also has written some stuff for DC Comics, like graphic novels, and even the Bat, is it called the Bat Manga? I think it's called the Bat Manga. But this collects issues 1 through 12 of All-Star Superman. When you read Chip Kidd's introduction, if you haven't read the book, there are a couple of moments that kind of spoil some things, some surprises, and I kind of want people to be genuinely surprised when they get to those moments. So I will also be stepping away from said surprises and twists and turns. I will give you the pitch of the book, even though the pitch of the book has just a little bit of a minor spoiler, but I have to talk about it because it sets up what this book is. And the book has 328 pages. So Absolute Superman, first of all, is an amazing feat. Like, I think it's so tremendous that Grant Morrison was able to do something that a lot of people have tried to do. And that is retelling the origin story of Superman, which has been done many, many, many times. There's been many versions of it over the decades. But instead of retelling it, we get like a abbreviated version of that particular origin story in just one page, really. That's it. If you've watched the movies, if you watched the cartoon, if you've read maybe a comic strip, you kind of know who he is, and Morrison's like, I'm not wasting any time. We're going to get right into the action. And that's exactly how they do it here. Hey, recap, this is what happens, desperate scientists, other worlds, baby's grown up, here comes Superman. Right into action. And I think that was such a stupendous feat. Because a lot of people have tried to do this. A lot of people have done this. Again, retelling the origin of Superman in a miniseries. In 6 issues. In 4 issues. In 12 issues. Some in 1 issue, but in 1 page? That's just crazy. So the story is very simple. What the premise of this is that Superman is trying to save Dr. Leo Quintum's space station. Dr. Leo Quintum is kind of he's a new character, and he pretty much symbolizes the Silver Age of characters. And when he's trying to save the space station, what ends up happening is that he absorbs the solar radiation. And it turns out that it is Lex Luther, this guy right here. This is Leo Quintum, and he's in charge of Project. That's the name of his team. Lex Luther had actually planned for him to go out there and absorb this solar radiation. The solar radiation increases his powers because, of course, Superman's powers grow because of our sun here. Hence why he's Superman and why anytime Kryptonians come here, that's what ends up happening. But this time around, he absorbs so much that it's actually killing him. And Dr. Quintum says, you have a year to live. And Superman has to come to the realization that even though he's fought all these giant monsters and supervillains and saved the Earth, the world, the universe, and so many times, that he's dying. He's got to come to terms with that. This omnipotent being is dying. Now, needless to say, but just in case, the All-Star line is out of continuity. It is in its own pocket universe. So if you've never read All-Star Superman or All-Star Batman, they are out of continuity. They're not part of the main DC continuity. But this is still one of the best representations of the character of Superman because of everything that he's able to accomplish. So Luther's happy. He gets arrested, and Superman comes to terms with the fact that he's dying. Now, again, this is a new universe, or pocket universe, as I like to call it. So at the end of the issue, Clark Kent comes up to Lois Lane and says, "Look, Lois, I have a secret to tell you. I'm Superman." And she doesn't believe him at first. And it's such an amazing feat for Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely to make you think that Clark Kent is a different character than Superman. It's been done in the movies. I think Christopher Reeve did such an amazing job of portraying that in the movie verse. But it's really difficult to do sometimes, I think, in comics, because most people draw Superman and Clark Kent the same way, without the shoulders and slouching. And I think Frank Quitely's art, that was the moment that I realized he did a lot of research for this. This is amazing. So Clark, or rather Superman, see, it's hard for me to tell the difference, ends up taking Lois to the Fortress of Solitude, where he shares with her all of these things that, he's been hiding from the world. And it's just so beautiful and laid back moments. I know my wife, and a lot of people actually, have issues with the portrayal of Lois, how she's used to here through the book, and also her dialogue. And I get it. But to me, this was like a Silver Age throwback in the kind of character that Lois was. And also characters like Perry and Jimmy Olsen. And we do get to see this Superman from the future coming with a warning. And what ends up happening is that Superman, for her birthday, gives her a serum. It's like his DNA in form of liquid. Don't get gross or jokey. You all know this is comic book science, and I know what you're thinking. But anyway, he gives her a serum. It gives her powers for 24 hours. You have new incarnations of these classic characters like Cat over here from the Daily Planet. This is the fight. Oh, this is such an awesome fight with Zeus and Samson. I forgot there was a movie. I forgot I watched that. And one of the characters was voiced by John DiMaggio, the voice of Bender. It sounds just like him. But he gives her this gift of superpowers, super flight, and it's so beautiful. And the way she just reacts to having superpowers. And that's where the iconic kiss on the moon comes from, with her just getting depowered and him flying her back. And it's a beautiful just relationship that they have. Now, with the fact that he has a year, or now less than a year left to live, he has decided to do these feats before he goes away. Like, he has decided to do something called the 12 Labors of Superman, which I'm thinking a lot of people probably know about. And it's to help humanity, to help Kryptonian life, and also just to help the universe. He has a year to do it. So pretty much it's like 1 month he has to do something that will help everyone. And that's what each issue is about. Whether or not he's successful, or whether or not it's the importance of the labor, it does happen until you get to the bitter end, which at this point you kind of know what's going to happen. This is one of my favorite moments right here. When Clark Kent, not Superman, again, Clark Kent, is going to interview Lex Luther. Lex Luther has been given the death penalty for what he did to the space station, for what he did to Superman. And Clark Kent goes up and interviews him. And it's such an iconic moment in the comic, because Lex Luthor, one of the smartest guys in the world, has no idea that Clark Kent is Superman. And there's a big, outbreak here from Parasite. This is, of course, at the prison, because what goes right here? And then Clark Kent has to hide from Lex Luthor and the world still, because he wants it to feel special. He wants Lois to be the only one that knows that he is Superman. Has to hide the fact that he's Superman, and he's able to save Lex Luthor. And there's a beautiful moment here where Lex tells Superman, or rather Clark Kent, that he's always respected him. That is so freaking awesome, how you're able to put all the history of these characters together in just a couple of pages. There are other beautiful moments that I don't want to spoil, and I know if you're on the internet, you've seen it shared, and they are beautiful for a reason. And there are moments in here that make me cry. And manly eye sweat, manly eye sweat. This is the future Superman, including one that you've seen before if you have been reading the DC Comics for a while. That from DC 1 million comes the Superman 1 million, along with other future Supermen. And This is one of the best issues. I know people love issue 10, but this is probably my favorite issue. The Bizarro issue is really unique in a way that Bizarro is treated. In the past, Bizarro is this, Superman clone or actual creature from the Bizarro universe. And there's been many incarnations of Bizarro. But what Morrison does is actually give you a Bizarro story like a zombie horror story, where you see not just Bizarro, but the entirety of like the Bizarro versions of Krypton. I found this one to be one of the most unique takes on the character. And then, of course, you have the Kryptonian characters showing up through here with these ridiculous Silver Age type of costumes. This is the never-ending story that I was talking about. This is the one that I think, if you ask most people that have read this, this is probably their favorite issue. And it is absolutely stunning and beautiful in every way. It does bring a tear to my eye. But I happen to enjoy a couple of other issues more. But, I mean, it's all personal taste, which is why I urge you, if you haven't read it, to read it yourself. Now, I will say, I know some of my viewers do not like the story, do not like the artwork, don't like Grant Morrison, and I get it. To each their own. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. To me, as long as you've read it, right? Like, if you've read it, you gave it a shot, you could have gotten to the third issue and been like, man, this is stupid. Awesome. That is your opinion. But I do tell people to always judge books for themselves. Whether it's something I'm praising or whether it's something that you've heard online, people are like, oh, this is the absolute awfulest story ever. Or whether even on this channel, when people ask my honest opinion about certain writers or certain storylines. Doesn't matter what we think. What matters is what you think and how that story makes you feel and how it touches you. That's the important part. I did want to highlight just a couple of more scenes with some of the action sequences here, because I think Frank Quitely really delivers on the type of action that is needed for this book. What are the... It's called action comics, so of course you have to have action. And I wasn't the biggest fan of Quitely before reading this in Week 3. I thought the unnecessary wrinkles, and I get them, right? I get why you need them. Just didn't do it for me. I didn't get it. I didn't understand the love and the passion. But the layouts and the amount of research that Quitely did to bring this book to life, it's just amazing. I don't think there's any other words. Of course, Grant's digital colors and inks also help bring it all together. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the back here. Look at the back here at the extras, because we're not going to talk about that ending. We're not going to talk about, this is the slouching that I was talking about, just messing up his hair, going from Clark Kent to Superman. So easy to do. Have y'all seen that? I think it's a meme of Zooey Deschanel, like when she's got her hair grown out, she doesn't have bangs, and people are like, oh, I can believe now why some characters were fooled into thinking that Clark Kent and Superman were different characters. That's kind of the way it feels. This actually goes, I think Morrison goes over every character and where the inspiration came from these, for these characters, including some of the Superman from the future. Yeah, the Superman squad. And little Easter eggs. Now, if you've read, there's the 12 Labors of Superman, which we don't want to spoil what the last 6 are, so we'll just go ahead and show you this variant cover from Neil Adams and Jamie Grant, also doing the colors. And then the biographies on Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely, and Jamie Grant. And your end sheets. Now, what I quickly want to do is compare it to the original printing. Original printing over here on the left-hand side, and the new printing on the right-hand side. Again, colors being just a little bit darker. Your end sheets right there. And for the record, I did want to say that this does still, to this day, have sewn binding. However, I've only opened it up. I haven't even stretched the spine on this one. I have a rule that if it has over 350 pages is when I do the stretching of the spine, and most absolutes don't. So darker colors over here. One of the things I did notice right away is the paper stock seems to be a little thicker on the original printing. And not that the original printing was perfect, because as you can see, a little bit of bleed through, but it's just a little bit more prominent over here on the new printing. And that's mainly due to the thickness of the paper side. It's not that much thinner, but it is just a little bit thinner. And this is the way that it lays over. Again, this one has been read so many times. It's one of my most read collected editions between my wife and I, and a few of my friends that I've trusted with my absolutes. So there's a little bit of just gutter loss right here. I'm sure over time it's going to get better. So just showcasing, the colors look almost identical, maybe just a tad bit darker over here. And it still comes just like the original printing. And here's the ribbon. And I wanted to just go and look at the double page spread. And there's the ribbons, and I wanted to look at the double page spread and kind of compare them. Again, the color's looking a little bit darker over here as opposed to this one here. But this is the way it lays over, and this is the way the original printing lays over. And as far as the page count, it is exactly the same page count. It ends and has the same extras as, yeah, right here. So it ends with this page right here. So the book itself, just like the original printing, has 328 pages. And that, as they say, is that. If you are interested in purchasing this particular Absolute Edition, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code Near Mint Condition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this Absolute Edition, and of course the comparison to the original printing. In the comments down below, let me know if you missed out on it and you've been waiting for a reprint. If you have the previous printings or you had it in trade paperback or deluxe edition, which way is your favorite way to collect it? Even the new DC Compact. I would love to know any of those questions, your answers down below. And if you yourself have any questions. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.